and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're joined by political commentator, newlywed, Kay Smythe Hill, as well as editor-in-chief of the Millennial, Libby Emmons. Ladies, welcome back. Kay, congrats on the marriage. We're excited for you getting, people coming together and getting married, and all of that is just beautiful. And we love to hear about it. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's exciting. It's the best thing ever. I went probably 10 years of my life not really leaning into faith or any real deep connection with God. And it was kind of amazing. As soon as I did, all of my work lined up, my entire family life lined up. And then, met the love of my life. So it's been epic. And then I think a guy won the presidency and just made everyone's lives easier.
I do know him. I do know him fairly well. Well, it's all great stuff, and we're so excited for you. Speaking of that guy, President Donald Trump had a quite an interesting dinner, I will say, Libby, with none other than Kid Rock, of course, Dana White, and Bill Maher, the special guest. And I think my favorite thing is to have experienced Bill Maher before and Bill Maher after sitting down and having dinner with President Trump, because it's very hard to go face to face with the president and walk away thinking he's a bad person, walk away thinking he's this dictator in chief, he's this awful monster like the left has always painted him. Actually, the exact words Bill Maher had was, he said his mind was blown, Libby, at this dinner that he had with President Trump, that the president was gracious and measured. And I thought that it was so nice that these two sat down together. And it gives me a lot of hope for the future, Libby.
Yeah, I thought it was great also. And it shows that two people can disagree on policy and they can still come together for dinner and have a nice time and enjoy each other and respect each other's positions. And that's really what American discourse is all about. We agree to disagree all the time. And this is a guy who's been bashing Trump for years. Yeah. And so to have him come and sit down and have a nice dinner and just talk about things, I thought it was actually even a little bit heartwarming,
Yes, yeah. I agree. It was lovely. Imagine that. He does say he's not going MAGA, though, Kay. He's like, oh, don't get me wrong. It was interesting to me because whenever he had to talk about this, he talked about it on a show on Friday. It felt like he really wanted to go all in and say, I had this amazing time. I was wrong about President Trump. He's actually a great guy. And I don't think he's this crazed lunatic like I've been talking about for years. But it felt like he couldn't quite get there. He didn't want to fully lose the audience. Kay, did you have that same impression?
I don't even think it's the audience. Let's be honest. He can't go there because he's scared about losing his network. He's scared, I don't know if you guys have ever spent time around all those Hollywood creepy lizard people types who run all of these major networks, all of whom have backed Bill Maher for his entire career. It doesn't matter how out there you are as a comedian. If you have a deal with any of these major networks, there's going to be someone in a suit telling you what you can and cannot do. Yeah. And for the most part, these guys believe them. Bill Maher believes them. I really do think that if he got out and went out on his own, he wouldn't see the same kind of success as Tucker, but he'd be up there. I really do think he would. And I think it's because he'd be allowed to say everything that you just described. I think he would absolutely go out there and say, actually, yeah, you know what, guys? Right now, I am down to make America great again. Because it's simple, it's clean, and I met the guy who's running it, and it turns out, everyone's been saying, screaming for the longest time ever, he's a good guy, and he knows what he's doing. That's why most of you all voted for him. I would have too, if I could, but I can't. So, that's just a legality thing.
You're probably right. I think if he could really say what he wanted, he probably would have been a little more forceful with his applause and approval of President Trump. But I do give him credit. I give him a lot of credit for going to this dinner for sitting down and then for coming out and talking about it, because you could come out and just be like, I don't know, he still sucked, but at least he gave us a little bit. I'll take it. I'll tell you that much. I'll tell you who gave a lot more than Bill Maher was the audience at UFC 314. Let me tell you something. That reception, every single time at these UFC events, I went to one over the summer with my father-in-law at the Prudential Center in New Jersey. It's absolute pandemonium. It's totally insane. This one, my father-in-law described as legendary. And he said, Libby, that the response he got from this audience was proof that people are happy with the job he's doing. He said, look, if I'd have walked out there and they would have booed me or been a little less excited, man, maybe it would have meant that I'm not doing a great job. But I think he's taking it as though people think he's doing a great job. I love that he gets that positive feedback, though. It's fantastic.
Yeah, what a wild crowd that was. That seemed so intense. And he was out there with some of the cabinet members as well. I mean, they could have almost just had a meeting in the center and people would have been like, let's go. It would be fascinating to see that. But yeah, I love this. I love that the crowd loved him. They always do. President Trump, in these experiences that he's had at UFC, makes me want to go to a UFC match. And I have never
They're very fun.
They're very fun. Yeah. I've never gone, and it looks like a lot of fun, but it does seem like Americans are getting their mojo back, and they're saying, we're Americans. We have shared values. We have shared principles. We have a shared nation. We're bringing jobs back here. We saw today a report that Honda is considering moving some factories to the U.S. That's so great. I love that. We saw NVIDIA chips are moving to the US, all of this stuff. And that's only going to do well for Americans, the Americans that get jobs at these places, and the Americans that benefit from having big factories and companies headquartered in their state.
And how cool that we have a leader for America who people are excited about. I mean, my God, it's like we survived 4 years of like a cold, hard winter where it was just like everything was just quiet and dead and nothing moved. I mean, imagine Joe Biden, Kay, walking into a UFC event. What kind of reception we think Joe Biden would get? That's the thing, is it feels like we're awake and alive again as a country. And that crowd there, man, they give it every single time. But I feel like they're a good barometer for the rest of the country. Those people in there, that's the core of President Trump's, fan base, so to speak, but the people who voted for him in a large way. And it feels like they're excited because they're like, thank God we've got somebody we can cheer for, who's cheering for us as a country, who's actually doing things to make our lives better. It's amazing to see. And I just feel like overall, this country is finally awake and thriving again. And I mean, for a while there, it didn't feel like it was going in any sort of good direction.
No, I mean, it felt like we had 4 years of like, oh, thank goodness, we're done with that like Clinton era, Bush Republican, corrupt nightmare, which we now, like, I kind of look at it as, an outsider to the country, but someone who's lived here for almost, well, it'd be a decade this year. I sort of look at those sort of two demographics and just they all sort of blur into one. I think what Trump has really done is not just revolutionized the country and gotten so many people excited for the future that we all want because he listened to us, and then he went and built his entire policy platform around what everyone was saying because he is a great listener. We learned that as well in the Bill Maher interview. It's a story I've heard for my entire career, is always just what a nice guy that he is. And so I think it's that coupled with, look at the men that were representing our sort of like leadership, I guess, not just here in America, but like in the world. I don't even know if you could call most of them men for a very long time. They were extremely weak. They certainly didn't represent anything that the women I know would ever want in a partner. They certainly didn't represent anything any of the men I know would want in a leader. And so I think, we had those 4 years right in the middle where things went really dark. I mean, I think I exclusively talked about the apocalypse every time I came on the show over those 4 years, let's be honest. But I think we're coming out of it now, not just with all of this incredible action, but with this almost, like completely new sense of what it means to be a modern American man. And that is going to lead us, not just as a great nation, all the building we're going to do here, but it's going to reintroduce us to the rest of the world in a way that like all this globalization, World Economic Forum, like nasty stuff that's going on. I mean, we're already seeing it in the tariffs. Everyone's just having to like take a step back because guess what? It's not just Trump. It's all American men now. And I'm so here for it. I'm so excited. Like,
No,
what a 180.
it is a 180. And yeah, gosh, the men in this country have been so beaten down. I feel like they barely survived. It's time. Like we're coming back. It's all coming back. The other thing I found interesting with that Bill Maher interview, just to go back, you just made me think of it, Kay, in your response, was that he was talking about how different it was to sit down with President Trump, how much more comfortable he felt around him than he ever did around any other president, around Barack Obama, around Bill Clinton. It was like, it was just easy. He was so comfortable to be around. But it's kind of what you said. We had this era of, these, it didn't really matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. It was kind of all in the same vein. We're out of that now. That is done. Those days are over. Donald Trump's a real person. And he's not afraid to call the shots and call it like he sees it and do the things necessary and stand up and be a tough, strong leader for this country. It's great. And I'll tell you something that I find very interesting is all the talk about daylight savings time. So this one for me, I feel like where my father-in-law landed is probably where I am. So the president wants Congress to adopt permanent daylight savings time, meaning he wants, Libby, there to be more daylight at the end of the day. He says that it's very costly for the federal government to change the clocks, that we all know that every time you lose the hour of sleep in the spring, there are hospital visits that go up, accidents go up, all the reasons that it's not a great thing to have anymore. But there is some kind of confusion, and Congress is a little iffy on if they're going to do this, how they're going to do this. I think the consensus is everyone says, yeah, we should pick one or the other. But Libby, which one do you pick? Which one are you going with?
I have no idea. I hate it so much. Like spring forward is just terrible. And then I'm just late until November when we change it back again. Because it's like I can never quite figure out what's going on. I don't like really waking up in the dark in the winter time.
I know.
That's not super fun. Of course, if we do the thing with more daylight at the end, the twilight golfers will be really happy. So, that's of course something that I imagine Trump would take into consideration.
Yes.
It's good for the golfers, maybe it's good for the country. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not a big fan. And also I'm one of those people that like, I figure out how to set my car clock once. And then for like 6 months, it's wrong no matter what. Because I'm always like, really? I remember at a stoplight. You don't have time to do it at a stoplight. So it's just ridiculous. Just going back to the men thing real quick. There was one thing that I just wanted to mention, which is Trump and First Lady Melania Trump put out a statement in support of Holy Week and wishing everyone a good Holy Week and a good Passover, and those two overlap this year. And it was so refreshing because last year Easter was Biden's Trans Day of Visibility.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Right? And how much more freeing is it to just be able to look forward to Holy Week? And, this is a very special time for Christians and for Jews this year because it's the same period of time. And of course, it's the same roots of religion. But anyway, so long, Trans Day of Visibility on Easter. No one needs that.
Yeah, that was so egregious last year. Remember that people were, of all the days, Kay, that they chose, that's the day. It felt very purposeful and just like a slap in the face to every Christian out there. Let me ask you about the daylight savings. The problem that they're having is that you have, these congressmen and senators from certain states that they're saying, well, wait a minute, my constituents say they want to have the extra daylight at the beginning of the day. So how, like, to me, my only concern is, all right, so if I am literally traveling like north from a state, let's say I'm traveling north from Florida to Georgia, and Florida adopted the daylight savings time and Georgia adopted the standard time. So what are we like changing hours? You got to figure out what state you're in for the whole thing. That could get very messy for me. But the changing of the clocks, I find just terrible because as to Libby's point, like in my kitchen, I'm trying to think how many I have. I think I have three at least in my kitchen. You know, I've got the microwave. I have no, I'm sorry, I have four ovens. Excuse me. I have five that all have I got to change all these things. Thank God for cell phones because those change on their own. But I like think about the like 15, 20 years ago before people could they automatically changed on their phones. You know, it's just messy. We got to pick one and we got to go with it, Kay. That's my feeling.
No, I feel exactly the same way. I think daylight savings is it's one of many incredibly detrimental experiments that we've run on humanity for a very short amount of time. We figured out it doesn't work. You know, you brought up the stuff about the hospital visits.
Yeah.
It is so detrimental, and it's jarring to our circadian rhythm that sends me into like tinfoil hat territory of like conspiracy theories. Like that's how much I dislike daylight savings. But I also comment, look, I think it needs to be federal. This is what it is. No state by state
Yeah,
malarkey. No one
I
needs
agree.
that. I'm usually a states' rights person. But on this one, no, this is a globalized issue. If we want to conduct business as like grown-ups in America, we have to have it be set, federal, one thing, all the three time zones done. That's geography brain talking now. But I think like the real root of it, the I have look, I hate clocks. I don't keep any in my house. I have one on the oven. I don't know what it says. I have my
Wow.
phone that tells me this. I am as crunchy can be, like truly hippie conservative. I'm watching my chickens right now as we speak. We got
Love
like
that.
pregnant porch kitties. I do my times. Like if someone tells me a time they need me, I will be there for that time. The rest of it, I don't want to know what time it is because I am that
Wow.
extreme in my crunchiness.
I love that's
So,
very freeing. That's
it
a very
is.
freeing way to live.
It is. And it's taken a lot of work to get here, but it is. And I think like I've worked so hard to train my circadian rhythm as well, to work with the sun and to work with, the moon. This is all like such hippie territory. I promise I'm a Christian and a conservative. I think that we need to remove the experiment because it's the first most easy way to get people to actually understand how important sleep schedules are
Yes.
and how important. Talk about the Maher movement. Daylight savings is a Maher issue because it affects our health in such a massive way to the point where we don't even understand it fully. But I
Yes.
really don't mind which way we go because I just I'm too weird. My lifestyle's too weird for that one. So whatever you guys want, that's what I will tell like all of my readers to do. Like you
You
guys
know
tell
what?
me.
Selling a car privately can be a real headache. Endless negotiations, tire kickers, and paperwork hassles. But there's a better way to get your unused car off your hands. For 30 years, Cars for Kids has perfected the car donation process to make it truly effortless. They'll take your car in any condition, running or not, and turn it into funds for kids in need, plus a tax deduction for you. It takes just 2 minutes on the phone or at carsforkids.org/Trump to donate, and they'll take it over from there, getting your car picked up as soon as the next day. No haggling, no scheduling, no conflicts, no paperwork nightmares. You'll receive a vacation voucher and maximum tax deduction while supporting proven programs that help children reach their full potential. With over 1 million successful donations over 3 decades, Cars for Kids continues to be a trusted partner for car donors across the country. Again, it's free, convenient, and easy, freeing up your driveway while making a difference for the next generation. Call now 1-877-CARS-4-KIDS. That's KARS, the number 4 kids, or donate online at carsforkids.org/Trump. I've always believed in the power of storytelling, the kind that lifts you up, inspires your faith, and reminds you what truly matters. That's why I love what Angel Studios is doing. They're bringing us films that honor our faith, celebrate our country, and instill values we can stand behind. Movies like Sound of Freedom, Homestead, and Bonhoeffer. Right now, when you join the Angel Guild, you'll get 2 free tickets to King of Kings, a breathtaking animated film about the life of Jesus, in theaters this Easter. I've seen how movies like this can touch hearts and change lives. You don't want to miss it. Angel Studios is delivering family-friendly entertainment that leaves you feeling good. Films that champion faith, freedom, and self-reliance. I'm proud to support them, and I'd love for you to join me. Go to angel.com/Lara, become a premium Angel Guild member today, and claim your 2 free tickets to King of Kings in theaters this Easter. And I'm not married to one or the other. I think, having young kids who play sports later in the day, oftentimes it is nice to have the daylight, but whatever. Like, they've got lights out at the fields, whatever. We're fine. I'm good either way. I agree. I think we just need to pick one and go with it. And I get the origin of this dates back to, the time when people were like walking to work in the like during the Industrial Revolution or something, before we really had like street lamps and all the things. I got it. We're not there anymore. We're very civilized now, and we don't need all of this. So civilized, Libby, that, by the way, we sent a whole crew of women to outer space. And I'm going to put that in air quotes for 11 minutes. Yesterday was a big day, the Blue Origin flight with all the women on it. If you want to take this flight, it'll cost you, I think, $125,000. And there was a lot of criticism, Libby. I'm interested to get your take on the flight. The vessel itself looked a little phallic to a lot of people. It was a very interesting way to go. I don't know what the story is there. I haven't really studied that one. The suits themselves, you had Katy Perry on there. Instead of like looking out the window at the Earth because you're in outer space for a couple of minutes, she's like doing selfies back at herself. The whole thing. What was your take on that, Libby? What did you think of that flight?
Well, for a bunch of feminists, I think this set feminism back a little bit. They had no helmets for their rocket ship ride. Like, what's that about? You don't need a helmet in space.
Yeah.
That's
you gotta have the hair done.
You don't need it. Right. Sure. You need to have your hair done. I wondered about that too. And I started thinking, like, this is this classic thing where you have, when you have like women action heroes and their hair is just like amazing. And I'm like, I would totally have a ponytail if I was in zero gravity in space with a bunch of other women with long hair. Otherwise, you're like getting hair in your mouth is what I imagine. You had Katy Perry talking about how she was like holding space for her fellow astronauts. Girl, y'all are not astronauts. You're not astronauts. Okay. I did like the outfits. I wonder if they could do like an H&M collab or something.
Yeah, I would buy one of those outfits. Right? 100%.
It's cool. Totally would wear it. But as far as the phallic rocket ship, men design these things after themselves. Like, whatever. Well,
look, I don't
really have an issue with that.
Here's my thing, though. Elon Musk has designed, there are a lot of SpaceX rockets that go up. Elon has got his own version of this. I think it's much more expensive. I think you're in space for like 2 or 3 days if you go the Elon route. Maybe it's like $2 million or something to do it. They don't look quite as I mean, I don't want to say offensive, but quite as phallic, quite frankly. Okay. How about you? What'd you think of that flight?
I thought it was silly. Like, I completely agree with both of you guys. Like, Libby, like everything you were saying about the hair. I mean, it was like if 30 Rock were doing a parody and like sending Jenna into space, right? Like, that's what it would be. Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to piggyback on like all your points here because I just felt so similarly. Just like a bit of a step back for feminism. Kind of like a little bit of a wash over the fact we also just like locked 2 people or 3 people up in space for like almost a year.
Oh my God, right?
And Jeff Bezos is like, oh my God, let's just like send some celebrities up there and it'll all be good. And we're all just sitting here like, what? Like, have you ever met real people, Jeff? Come on. Like, we don't care about this kind of stuff. It's weird and cringe. And I think it's, great. If they want to go do this stuff, if I read the headline on the New York Post or whatever, Katy Perry goes into space and she had paid for it and it was just like a thing that she did for fun and she posted the selfies. Great. But it became this whole like tabloid extravaganza. And I still fundamentally cannot understand why. And I've also never had anyone who works at any of these organizations explain to me how we've gotten through the Van Allen belt. And I really don't think Katy Perry is going to be the best person to explain that kind of physics to me. And so I also kind of just felt let down as like a scientist, where it's like, well, I'm a female. I don't understand a lot of like the math, but I understand, enough to get by. I don't understand how we got to the moon because of the stuff that your own astronauts have said, but sure, send some pop stars up. That'll shut us up, guys. Great.
One thing
What?
that was so funny with that was NPR actually ran an article about 20 pop stars that are more deserving to go to space than Katy Perry.
No.
Yeah, no,
Who
they
was
really
on the
did.
list?
I just tweeted about it. I didn't actually read past the headline,
Oh
because
It's NPR. Don't give them
hard-hitting
clicks.
journalism is just a little too much for me.
I mean, I'm glad that that's what they're reporting on. I guess better that than other stuff they could be.
I do
they
think
could be talking about.
I do think it's so cool though that we have two private space companies in this country. It just shows
Yes.
the success of NASA, right? NASA was so successful that now we have like private space companies like that. That's really awesome.
Would you go to space, Libby?
10 years ago, I was really itching to go to space and I really would have gone. And then now probably not. When my son was little, he said he wanted to go to space and he wanted to go to the moon. And I was like, okay, well, I'd have to say goodbye to you. You'd never be able to come home if you went to Mars, which is what he was talking about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think I would decline. I would decline to go to space.
My husband is jonesing to go. Kay, would you go?
No, I hate heights. I don't like caves either. I'm good planet Earth
No
level.
caves for sure.
No caves.
Never.
No caves, no space. What about you? Would you go?
I could be convinced to do the 11-minute trip because that to me seems palatable. I also learned, we're talking about the astronauts who were left up in space for 9 months instead of the 8 days they went up there for. When I started learning about all of the things that physically happen to them, clearly I'm a person who cares about physical fitness. I work out a lot. When you are in zero gravity, your muscles just basically wither away to nothing. They have nothing to work against them. So they're like, oh yeah, we're working out of here. You're not working out. You come back and you are in such a weakened state. Your bone density is lessened. Obviously your muscles are atrophied and you're just kind of like a shell of yourself. Plus, when you're in outer space, you're getting all of this radiation. And, nobody talks about that. That's one of the major issues. If you talk to people who really will give you the breakdown of what it would take to get to Mars, part of the problem is that the amount of time that you're exposed, it's years to get there. The amount of time that you're exposed to the radiation alone would be maybe fatal for some people. So there are a lot of reasons that I don't know that I would take anything more than the 11 minutes. I could be convinced on the 11 minutes, but outside of that, I'm out. I've worked too hard on all these muscles to get them withered away. Nothing. So we'll see. I'll let you guys know if I'm asked to go up there. Here's something that I think is shocking, and I keep hearing more and more about it. We keep hearing more and more stories about it. There was a recent poll. 55% of left-leaning Americans say it's somewhat justified to kill President Trump, and just about the same number felt strongly about it was being justified to kill Elon Musk. There is this assassination culture that has sort of bubbled up within the left wing of the political parties. It is really terrifying to think that there is anyone out there. My gosh, this is obviously a family member of mine. Butler doesn't feel like it was that long ago. We witnessed a future president, a former president, and a presidential candidate nearly lose his life because someone tried to assassinate him. I am utterly shocked that there are people out there, a majority of them who obviously are in one political party, who think that that's acceptable. And it's not just that. They also apparently are just normalizing vandalism and property damage. We've seen all the issues that have happened at Tesla dealerships, to Tesla owners. 58% of left-leaning respondents justified destroying Tesla dealerships, Kay. How the heck did we get here? What is this?
Oh, that's Democrat policy. Like, look at like the trash hole that Gavin Newsom has turned like a majority of California into, and certainly like urban California. I lived there for a long time. It is absolutely terrifying how quickly bad policy can just enable the worst behaviors in people. Because here's the thing, vandalism, I think, on the side of the left and, you know, the Democrats has been normal. We saw that during the George Floyd riots. We saw that in the sort of like run up to the 2024 election in like, you know, I just want to say, I truly believe that God is going to protect all of our families here. So I get like emotional when I talk about this kind of stuff because I remember, you know, certainly the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting. I was sitting out on my porch and my husband came, we was my husband at that point, came running out and said, Trump's just been shot. And then I just dove into, it was one of those days that I think everyone's going to remember where they were.
Yes,
and I don't think
absolutely.
people talk about that enough because it was such a terrifying moment for the future of the country. Like, I think we've all kind of seen that meme of, you know, being like millimeters away from the
Yeah.
collapse of America, guys. Like, it's not a small thing. Everyone listening, like, it's not a small thing. We nearly lost America. I think the rise in violence, here's where it starts to get really scary for me and my data. It's not just against the Tesla dealerships, right? It's not just against President Donald Trump. We saw the CEO of United Health, right?
Yep.
That was the name of the company. We saw him get shot. I woke up this morning and I see on Daily Caller, where I used to work, brilliant organization. I see a Daily Caller video of, oh God, who's that awful commentator that they push on the left all the
Taylor
time?
Lorenz.
Yes, her. Talking about how her, I assume, or women in general, find that kind of behavior attractive. And I'm like, okay, the only women I've ever met who would find that kind of behavior attractive are also psychopaths who think it's okay to go out and like blindly commit violence. This is okay. I hate this idea that the left is trying to push what that man did as like similar to what Daniel Penny did. Daniel
Oh
Penny
my
was
God. Outrageous. Outrageous.
acting in self-defense. Like what that young man did not only displays his mass amount of mental illness, but what the left is doing is normalizing and championing that. We've seen this other kid who stabbed that, was it like the twin brother to death? How
Right.
everyone's giving him money and congratulating him and like, oh, poor kid. No, he murdered someone. Like, I'm sorry, he like innocent till proven guilty, blah, 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 blah. But we're seeing this normalized rise in violence because, and I think, you know, you guys can call me crazy, but if you go to like the worst case scenario here, the easiest way to make a country collapse is to weaponize people in that country against each other. You couple that with the fact that we've been flooded with people that aren't from this country. We have so much disinformation online that it literally ripped our families apart during COVID. I think we're still in that very delicate place where there are still people who can be co-opted into that normalized violence to the degree that it could trickle into the macro, I guess, like human behavior. We could see that kind of rise in normalized violence. I have this weird feeling it's not going to happen. I don't think we're through it yet, but whether it's like the Holy Spirit, whatever it is, I just have this gut feeling we're not going to descend into what these sort of like psyop dark forces want, which is for us to all like kill each other. I just don't think that's going to happen. But I think we do need to nip this like violence in the bud, and we do that by stopping the policies that allow it to be perpetuated. Just look at California. Thank you for listening to my TED talk.
No, by the way, I agree with you on the like the having faith aspect of it because to be honest, that is, I mean, for those of us in my family, people often ask, you know, well, how is it that you guys aren't concerned about, you know, your father-in-law? And of course, I'm concerned about him every day. You have these crazy people. There was like a kid, Nikita Kasap, I think is how you say his name, killed his parents, allegedly killed his parents in Wisconsin in order to have the money and the ability to assassinate President Trump. This is my family. Like, but to be honest with you, I can't think about that and worry about it all the time. I have this faith that he is covered by the Holy Spirit, that he is protected. I don't think you could have watched what happened on stage at Butler and thought anything else other than that. But there is this very scary place that some people are slipping into. And Libby, the crazy thing to me, if you would have said 20% of left-leaning respondents thought that it was acceptable to contemplate assassinating the president, I would have said that's insane. Like 20%, 55%, Libby, that's terrifying.
It is a lot of people. It's a lot of people who think it's okay to commit violence over political disagreements, which is absolutely an insane concept. But these are the same people who for years have been saying punch a Nazi, then redefining the term Nazi to mean anyone I disagree with.
Right.
These are the same people who were saying punch a TERF, which basically means beat up women who know that they're women and that men are not women. These are the same people who were saying for years, right? We heard it in 2020 and onward and before that words are violence. And so they think that if they hear words that they don't like, that means those words are violent and that the way to respond to violence is with violence. So I think in their completely delusional minds, they believe that an assassination would be a form of self-defense against the words and ideas that they don't like. Which is crazy.
It's crazy. It's terrifying. But I am going to go ahead and side with Kay on this, and I'm just going to have to hold out hope. And I think that we have to call this out. You know, the fact that we started this show talking about Bill Maher and the way he was sort of like shown a whole new side of President Trump. I hope more people are able to see that side, and I hope the 55% who think it's acceptable take a moment and really think about this is a human being. He's a father, he's a grandfather, he's a husband. It's not just this figure that, you know, the left has sort of and the mainstream media have made into this monster. He's a real person, and we can't have a country that has people thinking it's acceptable to commit violence and obviously to kill people. Just to wrap us up here today, I think one of my favorite things, President Trump likes to go in the Oval Office, gather the press around. I'm going to go ahead and say, as I always do, he's the most transparent president I think we've ever had. But he likes to gather them in there, and he likes to sign these executive orders. And Kay, my favorite one recently was the war on water pressure being over. Now, it's so funny because I don't think a lot of people appreciated that this was happening. But apparently for a long time, we had water pressure that was unavailable to us. There were restrictions put on the water pressure in this country based on, I guess, trying to conserve water by the Obama administration. So the order repeals the Obama-era regulations that limited how much water could flow from shower heads as part of a conservation effort. Trump had previously loosened those rules, but the Biden administration brought them back after Biden took office. And now they're all done. And I loved when my father-in-law is there. He's like, you got to stand under the water for 15 minutes just to get wet. It's so funny, but this is why people really love President Trump, because maybe this is what Bill Maher saw. This is this is who he is. And you were never getting that from Obama. You were never getting that from Clinton. You were definitely never getting that from Biden.
Well, like you said, he's a real person. Like, he has a real sense of humor. I've never met anyone who's met Trump and hasn't loved him.
Yes.
And I've also never met anyone who's gone from the sort of like left to the right and then ever gone back. I've never met anyone who's gone from the right to the left under his leadership. So I think there's this water pressure thing. Hilarious. Just another prime example of just how redundant, how stupid the left's climate policies are, right? They don't exist. Oh, we want to conserve water. Then how about go and retrofit homes with gray water systems? How about let Californians capture the water that actually falls in their state? How about letting us all do that? There are thousands of different ways to just kind of keep doing what we're doing and have listen, the water pressure is one thing. I'm so glad we've got it. I'm terrified, though, that when people realize the actual temperature controls that are on y'all's taps, it's going to be a whole other kettle of fish, as we like to say back in Wales. Oh, yeah. None of us get hot water the way that we're deserving of hot water, and it exists. And you can, if you know what to do, you can get hot water, but you're not supposed to. So high pressure and hot water, like Trump's America. Stick a fork in me. I am done. It's just magical. I am
You
so
know
here
what's
for
so
it.
funny? You talking about the like that we can't get hot water. I saw this I think it was on Instagram, Libby. This guy, it's like a husband. He's like husband in training to finally take a shower with his wife, and he literally is sticking his hand in like boiling hot water. Is it I love a nice hot shower, but my husband and I always fight over it. We recently went on vacation. We finally took our first vacation in a year. And this shower, like you could set the temperature. And every time Eric got in, he's like, why is this so hot? It was like, I'm sorry. This is perfect for me. This is perfect temperature. I guess these guys like these cold showers. I don't know what's going on, but now you can get a full water flow, whether you're in the shower, Libby, whether you're washing dishes, whether you're washing a load of clothes. You don't have to wash them multiple times. Thank you, President Trump.
Yeah, I keep thinking of Seinfeld. There was a plot line at one point about water pressure, and Kramer ended up getting an elephant shower from the zoo because he just couldn't stand it after New York City had implemented these low water pressure things. And they're all walking around with like super flat hair and they're miserable. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's this new Netflix show, The Residency, and it takes place in the White House. And there's a whole plot line about the president in that show who's nothing like Trump, but he does really like a hot shower with good water pressure, and it takes the maintenance guy forever to get it right, and finally the guy is just like so grateful. Yeah, I'm into a hot shower. I like good water pressure, and I love that Trump, he cares about the huge things like bringing jobs home and closing the border and reducing crime and all of these massive things, but he also cares about quality of life. And to that I attribute his background as a New Yorker, because in New York, the only thing that really matters is quality of life. If you could take your trash out, you have decent water pressure, and your bills aren't too bad, and the subway's crime free, you're going to be just fine. And I appreciate those little things. Also, the incandescent light bulbs, which has made my year.
Yes. It's all good things. You're right. He cares about the big deal stuff. But these are the things, look, as someone who had worked basically, I'll say in hospitality, because, you own all these hotels and golf courses. That's the hospitality business. Your
That's a really
job
good
is
point.
to make sure that the people who are staying with you, your members, whoever it is, are happy and that things are running well and working well for them. So this is probably part of it. And these are the things people don't even know about. People are like, wait, what? This was happening? Yeah, this has been happening. So it's all done now. It's all good now. Kay and Libby, as always, you guys are the best. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Right View. To everybody at home, as always, please make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. And we'll see you back here next time for more. And I won't back down. Hey, baby. Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.